Hello, welcome to my kitchen. My name's Amita Talbot. Welcome to Mrs. Talbot's Kitchen. Today I'm going to do a recipe for you from our 40th anniversary Pampered Chef Season's Best cookbook using the newly released, back in October actually, Dutch oven. It's a 6-quart beautiful Dutch oven. I've actually never really owned one in most of my married life, but now I have a couple of them because I have the Rock Crock one as well. This one is beautiful because it's big, and we're gonna do a braised chicken in it. So really great. I've done this recipe before. It is delicious. It's a really nice Sunday recipe, which that is what happens to be today is. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring you along for the recipe. You need 1 large leek or 2 smaller ones. So I'm gonna start with a large leek. I'm gonna start chopping my leeks. I do them in smaller portions. I halve them, and then after I'm done chopping them, I'm gonna rinse them and come back and show you what's next. So leeks are washed, sliced, drained. I like using my fine mesh strainer, which is really meant for soup stocks and if you're doing rice and quinoa, but works for leeks as well. So I've heated the Dutch oven, put a little bit of oil in it. I'm just gonna add those in, just like that. And we're gonna just move that around for a minute. And the other thing I've sliced that goes next, bacon. Now, here's my bacon tip. If you can, I don't buy tons of bacon, so I know if you're buying 2 and 3 packs, it's expensive. I buy a few slices at a time to enjoy here and there. I find when you go to the butcher shop, it's so much less salt. It is just so much more flavorful. It's better for you because it's not, it's fresh. It doesn't have the preservatives. So that's what I only needed 4 slices. So it just really adds to recipes like this, if you can do that. So it's a really good tip. Again, I don't buy, you probably shouldn't be reading packs and packs of bacon anyways, but here and there for recipes, oh, it's so enjoyable. So I've got that sliced in little pieces. I've got my leeks moving. Here's the other thing I've got going. So I've got my chicken. I'll move it over here. So this chicken, or this recipe, we're using thighs and drumsticks. So it's one of those recipes that I say, it tastes expensive, but it's not expensive because chicken drumsticks and chicken thighs you can get on such a good sale. These are boneless, or they have the bone on and skin, so they're really cheap, but this recipe is going to taste like a $50 plate at a restaurant. So what you need to do, I did the other side already. I'm going to add my lemon pepper. I don't have it in one of my jars, but luckily my lemon pepper spice from Pampered Chef, I have a Taste Buds subscription where they send me recipes every month and send me spices. And if you want to know more about that, you can ask. So I had lemon pepper this month. So I've had it in a bag, ready to go. If you don't have lemon pepper, you can use something else, but that's the one it calls for. So I'm just adding it on both sides of my chicken. Just sprinkling it. It's easier in a container, obviously, than what I'm doing, but it's fine. You make do. You don't have to have everything perfect. That's what I think. You just do with what you have. So I've got lots of spices. We like spices. Depends how much you like spicy. This smells delicious. The lemon pepper. So those are ready. Moving my leeks. And I'm going to add my bacon in just a minute. Got my recipe going here. Now the other thing is the sides. I have the beautiful matching cast iron in this pattern for my little baby potatoes. Easy, just put some oil, some salt, seasoning salt, and I've got my medium bar pan loaded with some cauliflower. I bought it in a bag, ready to go. So if there's things you need to simplify, we all need things to simplify. You want to be able to, sometimes you don't feel like it's worth it taking a shortcut sometimes for little things because vegetables are important. So you should serve them, and sometimes you don't feel like cutting them up. So that's my break today. I have the cauliflower. I bought it in a bag. I didn't have to cut it up. So I'm going to add my bacon And I'm going to saute this for a couple minutes, and then we'll come back and do the next step, which will be adding the chicken. So bacon is browned, and I did one little mess up. I put my leeks in ahead of time, but it doesn't matter. I cooked my leeks and my bacon together. See, here's my thing. It doesn't matter, it's okay. You just have to be fluid and go with what you do. So you have to brown your bacon, brown your leeks, and then take it out. Now here, going back to what type of bacon I use. It says to use a slotted spoon. I have no oil in the bottom. I have no grease, really. Nothing. I'm in fact going to add a little bit of olive oil for cooking my chicken in. So you're not getting that like loads of bacon grease that you normally win. Maybe some of you are sad about that. But I'm happy. I don't have all that. So now I'm in Georgetown. My bacon, little advertising comes from McMaster's Meats down here in Georgetown. Decided to go in there, say to Spencer, the owner, Mrs. Talbot or Amita sent me for your bacon. So go in and get some. I'm going to add I said just a little bit of oil because I don't have the bacon grease in there. If you do, because you're using the other bacon, make sure you only have 2 tablespoons in. So the next part of this recipe is just cooking in batches. You're just going to brown your chicken. This is just such a comforting meal. It's delicious when it's done. I love that we're using the thighs and the drumsticks. The variety. I'm loving the excitement of the variety. You can tell we're all in lockdown. We're excited about chicken variety. And so you just put it in there. I kind of tend to do the legs all together and then the thighs all together. So what you're going to work on now is just browning each side of your chicken. Do both sides, take it out, add your next batch before we can move on to the next step. So chicken has all been browned. I worked in a couple batches. This is one of those recipes you can use more than the recipe calls for. This one would call for just, I can't even remember how many pieces. It's like 4. And I'm using quite a bit because I have a lot more people to feed. And the beauty of this beautiful Dutch oven is I can fit more. It just takes me a little bit longer to do the batches. That's why it's a Sunday recipe, or a weekend recipe, I should say. So now I'm just adding in, after I've browned that, I'm adding in my garlic. And I'm gonna put that, I'm gonna just move that around. And the next thing I add with that, it all smells so good, is a half a cup of white wine. Around the pot, because this is going to get all those delicious little bits off the bottom. Now, I admitted to making the faux pas. I didn't have my leeks in. So all I'm going to do, turn my stuff down here. I'm going to add my bacon and leeks back in. It doesn't matter. It's going to get the flavoring that you want. As the wine and the garlic cook, it's going to go into this here. So we're going to let this just kind of simmer. You want it to reduce a tiny bit. So you're going to move it around and let it reduce and kind of scrape off the bottom. And then we're getting to the good stuff. So I've let my wine simmer for about 3 to 4 minutes. In here, just moving it all around, like I said, scraping the bits off the bottom because that's going to add delicious flavor. Next, I'm adding 3 tablespoons of butter right in, and I'm going to let that melt. I've turned it down a lot, so I'm going to turn it up a tiny bit. So with the butter, the other thing we're going to add is a tablespoon of Dijon mustard to go in there for our sauce. The sauce, it's all made in here with the chicken. Now, I always say, I love these measuring spoons. They are great. This is a tablespoon because you can just, they easily reach inside your jars, your spice jars, like the mustard jar like I have. Make it really easy to add things to a recipe. So I'm just moving this around and melting it. And then the next thing I'm going to add is a cup of chicken stock as well for our sauce. The butter takes no time to melt. So get that. And then I'm going to pour in the chicken stock. Can we get the camera? Can I get it a little let's just get a look at what's going on in here. So here's what we've got so far. Almost looks like a gravy coming up. So everything's kind of coming together. And then for a thickener, what you need is 2 tablespoons of flour. I am gluten-free, so I'm using tapioca flour to do that. So it works. Mental note for people who are gluten-free, or if you're making it for someone who is gluten-free and you think, oh, I have to come up with something, you don't have to worry. It's not going to change doesn't change anything. You just need some tapioca starch or flour. It's called both. And you've got your recipe for your friends or family that can't have gluten. And it's one that can work for everybody, unless they can't have bacon. And then you got to take the bacon out. It's certainly not a vegetarian dish, is it? So I'm going to stir this around. This all comes together, and then you guessed it, we add the chicken back in. This one is all done on the stove. But these pots, I know they're the rage now. Everybody loves Dutch ovens. Ours is not only gorgeous, it's just a really nice pot to work with. And of course you can use them on top of the stove. There's lots of recipes. You start on top and you finish in the stove. This one actually just takes place all on top. I've done recipes where you actually heat the internal part and cook your chicken. You put a whole chicken in like that, but that's for another video. So my sauces come together, and I'm going to work at adding my chicken back in. And I just was checking to make sure I didn't forget anything, and we will catch up to what happens as we finish the sauce. So we're ready for dinner. I've done a super big pot. Can we get a shot of our pot here? We have it like tons of chicken, so this is great. 6 quarts, you can do it all. You just have to be mindful. Make sure your chicken's done. So have a good timer, thermometer, not a timer, a good thermometer. I would suggest the Pampered Chef one. This one is fantastic. Just to make sure your chicken is done. So I am ready to plate a delicious dinner. Spinach and everything. It's like you have a little gravy on the side. I'm gonna add, okay, my tool turnabout here. I've got so many tools just to get some potatoes. And again, you don't have to make it hard, your sides. Make them easy. Just get some potatoes that are ready to go. I got the cauliflower ready to go, and I threw arugula in a bowl and added some oil and balsamic and a nice little green side salad. I'm not a good plater, but it's gonna be delicious. Might even add a little bit more gravy on potatoes. So that was our braised chicken from the 40th anniversary edition of our Pampered Chef Season's Best. Give it a try. Have a great time enjoying your chicken.